crimes against humanity in Xinjiang. What is the world going to do about it?
Hello and welcome to today's Daily Blitz. The latest edition of the Fleet Street Letter Monthly Alert is out, and it's about the grimmest piece of editorial we have ever published.
That's quite right. It's one of the most depressing and distressing things we've ever had to write here, but we think it's a very important story of what is going on in the northwest of China, and it will affect investors in a very big way, because China has been the world's engine of economic growth for the last 40 years, effectively, ever since Nixon started taking them into the US's orbit. And when the world really, truly appreciates the depravity of what is going on there, we think that there will be big consequences for trading relationships between China and the rest of the world.
Now, today what we'll do is take you through some of the monthly issue. Obviously, we can't reveal everything because it's for subscribers only, but some of this you just need to hear. And where we'd like to start is what most people already know about this story, and that's the internment camps. So the Washington Post estimates there are about 3 million people in these internment camps that have been built since 2017.
The Chinese Communist Party have effectively been identifying identities in themselves, like the Uyghurs in Xinjiang, and also Falun Gong practitioners, but also includes Christian dissidents and others, that are effectively identities which could have a rival allegiance to anything other than the Chinese Communist Party, which is, of course, an atheistic state. Their solution to this problem is effectively to try and breed out these ethnicities. There really isn't much any other way of putting it. In the case in Xinjiang, you are seeing mass marriages at once of arranged marriages of Uyghur women to Chinese Communist Party officials. You are seeing the the Pair Up and Become Family program.
That's right. So the people that actually make it out of these vocational training centers, and it's vocational training, their stories, if they make it out, their stories of torture and rape and all this sort of thing inside the camps. Then the people that do make it out might return home to discover a Chinese handman in their wife's bed under a Communist Party program called the Pair Up and Become a Family program, the idea being that you're trying to breed out the Uyghur identity, literally.
And women who are being put into the camps are also a report of being effectively sterilized, including being given medication that stops their menstrual cycles. It is all about effectively trying to stop this ethnicity from reproducing. It's really quite diabolical, but that is sadly not the most depraved aspect of what is going on there. Catalyst to this story, which we think is going to change the world if we're correct, occurred earlier this year, even here in London for that matter. It's something called the China Tribunal. This was chaired by Sir Geoffrey Nice QC. This man has been a barrister for 48 years and a judge for 34, and he was the one who prosecuted Slobodan Milosevic, the Serbian president, for war crimes on behalf of the UN and on behalf of Yugoslavia. He chaired this China Tribunal. We will link to its final judgment below, and you can see all of the gory details of what China has been doing to its enemies in Xinjiang and elsewhere.
The most shocking part of this, to me, has been how systematic and almost industrialized this whole process is, especially when it's targeted to the Uyghurs and the Falun Gong. This isn't some sort of arbitrary attempt to harvest the organs of prisoners. This is a carefully orchestrated campaign, right?
Yes, so this is not ad hoc. This has been created at great scale with a great deal of thinking behind it, and Lord knows how many people involved at every aspect of this system. So there are 15 to 18 million Uyghurs in Xinjiang. All of them, if the evidence before the tribunal is to be believed, have been given blood and DNA tests. People who have been put into the camps have also been given urine tests, ultrasounds to check the shape of their organs, and many other tissue tests as well, simply to establish whether or not all of the details about them and whether or not their organs would be a good match for foreigners who want to purchase an organ, or for Chinese Communist Party officials who are in need of a transplant. So that's 18 million people. All of them have been filed into what's effectively an organ bank. And what is not really appreciated, what's not really understood, I think, from a lot of Western observers, is this is effectively just an organ bank, so that when somebody shows up needing an organ, the person who has the most suitable organs will simply be murdered for the transplant to take place. And if the evidence before the China Tribunal is indeed correct, the evidence is really very disturbing. So effectively, the victim who has been selected to be killed for their organs. Once they've been taken, they're not given any anesthetic. They are simply, if they're lucky, they get shot on the right side of their chest to put their body into shock for being cut open and being killed in the process of having their organs pulled out of them. In some cases, if the evidence again is to be believed, they're not even shot. They're simply cut open and have their organs pulled out, and they die screaming. It is really some of the most depraved and diabolical stuff that you can read. But when somebody takes takes this story and pushes it global, makes it viral, we believe that the backlash will be really quite severe. And we've started to see that from even some celebrities, and who to begin with have been punished by those that they sell products for.
And that's the real story that we're focusing on in this monthly issue, is not just what's going on inside China, but the fact that it is so bad that there is going to be a severe backlash in geopolitics and populations around the world. The question is how that looks, and from my perspective, I'm expecting someone like Nigel Farage, if he can convince Britain to try and leave the EU, then someone like him will come along and convince people that this is not all right, that we do need to do something about it. And that is going to create an economic and financial shock that I think readers need to know about.
I think I like to draw parallels between the US-China competition to the US-Soviet Union competition quite a lot, as those who watch our Daily Blitzes will know. But I think in this case, what we're really thinking of is a Joseph McCarthy figure. So Senator Joseph McCarthy, or Machine Gun Joe, as he was called at the time, is always spoken of pejoratively. All manner of people were accused of being communists and were hounded and had to leave the country and all manner of things. However, he was effectively a successful figure in creating fear about this enemy threat within America. And we believe that effectively a Joseph McCarthy figure now has there's such a political opportunity to make, a career to be made in labeling China as an aggressor and in perpetrating all of these infernal acts abroad, that it will be enough to really change the entire world's perception of China and its trade relations with China as well. We go into it more in the issue, but when you look at China's great reach throughout the developed world in very subtle ways, this is like, for example, in the Confucius Institutes, in so many of universities here in the UK and in the US and throughout Europe for that matter. And when you look at what European politicians, including our own politician here in Britain, do after they have left public office in going to China and arranging for sort of effectively brokering deals and networking between Chinese businessmen and Chinese Communist Party officials and integrating them into the European system. Yeah, there are so many threads that could be pulled at, so many things that could be pointed at that would really create a big China scare, another red scare effectively throughout the West.
And so we'd like to finish this Daily Blitz by asking you exactly what we asked our readers. What is your position on this? Are you an appeaser, an apologist, or are you more like us, an agitator, and you believe that people need to know about this? And if you are like us, then we'd like to ask you to share this video.
Thank you very much for watching today's Daily Blitz, and be sure to tune in for the next one.